What's up, quality geeks? Hope you're doing awesome. Today we'll take a look at the 10 principles for Agile testers. Before that, let's do a quick recap of what we covered in the chapter 1. We discussed the Agile values and how to use these values as a guiding force in developing quality software. We examined what we mean by Agile testing, the idea being that we first form goals, write test scenarios, examples, and then build the code to achieve those goals. This is done through test-driven development, behavior-driven development, and so on. We clarified some terminology around programmer, developer, tester, and discussed the two subteams of Agile team. We reviewed the differences between traditional model, its shortcomings, and compared it to the Agile testing model. Finally, we emphasized the software, or rather, the importance of the whole team approach, of not thinking quality as a department, but as skills and resources required to get the job done, of having each other's back, and doing due diligence early in the cycle so that we have a highly testable product as it moves down the pipeline. We summarize the philosophy of the quality by the phrase, test early, test often. You may have noticed that there is something paradoxical about the fact that when a whole team is responsible for quality, then what is special about having an Agile tester on the team? If I define myself as a tester on the Agile team, what does that really mean? Do Agile testers need a different skill set than testers on the traditional team? What guides them in their daily activities? In this chapter, we will discuss the 10 principles for Agile testers in some detail, what it means to be an Agile tester, the Agile testing mindset, and how these principles help add value on Agile teams. An Agile tester is a professional tester who embraces change. It's not uncommon for a traditional tester to be frustrated with changing requirements, but an Agile tester is someone who embraces this change. At the cutting edge of technology and engineering, we're often required to respond to change effectively, and a tester must take this into account into their test strategies. An Agile tester collaborates with both technical and business people. They need to have good technical skills plus people skills. They must be able to help others to automate tests and must be willing to learn what customers do so that they can understand the software requirements holistically. They understand the concepts of using tests to document requirements and drive development. Given that requirements keep changing by nature, requirements and test plans get outdated pretty quickly. If tests are used to document requirements, it improves the maintainability of the test infrastructure. We will discuss how to do this in some detail in the future chapters. An Agile tester is a member who drives testing, just like a bus driver. Different people, just like different teams, have different destinations, and the driver helps them safely reach their respective destinations. The tester works with different teams to help them achieve quality in their context. While each team tests code for the features in a particular context, the Agile tester needs to see the big picture. They look at the application from a user or customer point of view. In summary, an Agile tester is a professional tester who embraces change, collaborates with both the customer and developer teams, understands the concepts of test to document requirements, and drives development. Traditionally, a tester's mindset has that been of a police officer, an authority working in silo, protecting the customers from inadequate code, quote unquote, finding bugs, blocking releases, and deciding what's allowed to be released and what's not. Sounds like a pretty authoritarian figure. They've traditionally been seen as someone outside of the development team, someone who's an adversary to the developers. This is not the mindset of an Agile tester. Instead, an Agile tester is ready to gather and share information, to work with the customer team in order to help them express their requirements adequately so that they can get the features they need. They also provide feedback on project progress to everyone. In essence, they're trying to bridge the gap between the non-technical customer and a highly technical programmer. These two mindsets are different. Through effective communication and collaboration, the Agile tester tries to map the customer expectations in the form of test scenarios as accurately as possible. The Agile tester is always looking for ways in which team can do a better job of producing high quality software. They're also keeping track of new developments in technology, tools, research, and literature in the quality domain. On a personal level, that might mean attending a local user group meeting to find out what other teams are doing, conferences, and so on. It also means trying out new tools to help the team do a better job of specifying, executing, and automating customer requirements as tests. If necessary, they must also be able to build new tools to make things easier for other members of the team. For example, they might build an easy to use at-desk regression verifier that the programmer can use to test their code changes with a click of a few buttons or by running a simple script. Testers don't just limit themselves to solving only testing issues. They help the developer and customer teams address any kind of issue that might arise. Testers can provide information that helps the team look back and learn from what's working and what isn't. A good Agile tester is not afraid to jump into design discussions and suggestions that will help the testability of the product and to create a more elegant solution. All in all, creativity, openness to ideas, focus on customers, and a constant view of the big picture are important components of an Agile testing mindset. If it's a mindset that's result-oriented, collaborative, eager to learn, and passionate about delivering business value in a timely manner. Individuals have a big impact on project success. We'd expect a team of experienced and highly skilled members to outperform a less talented team, but the team is more than just its individual members. Agile values and principles promote a focus on people involved in the project and how they interact and communicate. A team that guides itself with Agile values and principles will have a higher team morale and better velocity than a poorly functioning team of talented individuals. So, for example, a soccer team made of 11 Lionel Messis would lose to even a mid-table professional team with varied skills and effective team chemistry, because Lionel Messi does not have all the skills that's required to win the game. The first principle for an Agile tester is to provide continuous feedback. Given that tests drive Agile projects, feedback plays a big part in any Agile team. One of the tester's most important contribution is helping the product owner or customer team articulate requirements for each story in form of examples and tests. The tester then works together with teammates to turn those requirements into executable tests. Testers, programmers, and other team members work to run these tests early and often, so they're continuously guided by meaningful feedback. We will spend a lot of time in this video series explaining ways to do this. We also have to manage expectations of higher management. Is management worried about how work is progressing? Display a big chart of tests written and running and passing every day. Display a big coverage report on a TV or something, such as, and display metrics like test matrices and so on. Are we having trouble getting the build stable? Display the time elapsed since the last build was fixed in order to get more attention to the pipeline from people. Once it becomes a habit and trust is established, the management wouldn't need visual cues anymore. They'll trust the system. Agile development is about delivering value in small releases that provide the exact functionality to the customer has prioritized, that the customer has prioritized. This usually means limiting scope. It also allows the team to have a laser focus on what they're developing. We can deliver most critical functionality in the current iteration and add additional requests for the next iteration. If we let new features creep in, we risk delivering nothing on time. So for example, in the middle of an iteration, let's say the customer says, well, it would be really nice if this selection report could include XYZ and be sorted on A as well. An innocent request like this can add a lot of complexity to the story, let alone the testing repercussions of an ill-timed request. All parties need to discuss if this can be handled within the current scope. If not, we just write a task card for the next iteration. And given that our iterations are small, this is the reason why our iterations are small, so that we can see the software in action and get to improvements quicker, as opposed to building a software for, let's say, 3 to 6 months and then realizing we've built it incorrectly. To ensure that we deliver some value in each iteration, the team can look at each story to identify the critical path, the critical path or the thin slice of necessary functionality. We complete those tasks first and then go back and flesh out the rest of the features. The worst case scenario is that only the core functionality gets released, but that's still better than delivering nothing or something that works only halfway and crashes in the middle. Agile testers take the same approach. They help the developer team and the customer team to identify and test the happy parts first and add negative and boundary tests later. Always consider what adds most value to the customer or the user and understand your context. No team works well without good communication. Today, when so many teams are distributed in multiple geographic locations, communication is even more vital than and more of a challenge. In-person communication has become exponentially harder during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially for folks who rank high on extroversion and crave that quick personal face-to-face interaction or water cooler conversations. It's extremely challenging for them as much of the work is now being done from home, away from the bustling aura and energy of the office space. The Agile tester should look for unique ways to facilitate communication. It is a critical aspect of doing their job well. Due to logistical or cultural hurdles within a team, it may so happen that the testers are left out of a discussion and they often learn about the changes after the fact. Great success could be found with the power of three rule. The power of three rule meant that all discussions about a feature need a programmer, a tester, and a product owner. From conception, planning, and design to deployment in production, it is each person's responsibility to make sure there was a representative from each group. Once it becomes a habit, the tester would no longer be left out of a discussion. Business people and software people often speak different languages. The Agile tester is an effective interpreter who can help customers and developers achieve a shared language. Examples and usage scenarios help the customer envision their requirements more clearly. They also help the developers to produce well-designed code to meet those requirements. An important feature of an Agile tester is that they're critical thinkers and constantly working towards uncovering hidden assumptions in the requirements or the implementation. Test automation and continuous integration allows the team to practice the value of courage. The developers can have the courage to make the changes and refactor the code because they have a safety net of the automated regression suite. There's also emotional courage that's needed when transitioning into an agile team. Traditionally, testers have usually been stuck in their own silo, unable to talk to business stakeholders and other members of the technical team. They've been considered an outside team, and they might feel uncomfortable having to go ask customers or for examples or ask programmers to help them automate a test. It's normal for a traditional tester to feel fear and have a list of questions that need to be answered. Agile testers need courage to find answers to their questions. But there are more reasons for having courage. We need courage to let ourselves fail, knowing that we'll at least fail fast and we'll be able to learn from that failure and quickly fix it. After we have blown an iteration because we didn't get a stable build, we'll start thinking of ways to ensure it doesn't happen again. We need courage to allow others to make mistakes, as that's how we could learn collectively. We need courage to ask for help, especially when the person who could provide you that help looks pretty busy or stressed out themselves. Climbing out of your old silo and integrating in a team and be responsible for success and failure takes courage. Asking a question or respectfully explaining what you think is a flaw requires courage. Even if a team is supported by agile values and principles, don't be afraid. Agile teams are open, non-judgmental, very important, and generally accepting of new ideas. Agile testers and their teams are challenged to not only produce simplest possible interpretation, but to take a simple approach to ensuring that software meets the customer requirements. This does not mean that the team shouldn't take some time to analyze the themes and the stories and think through the proper architecture and design. It does mean, however, that the team might need to push back on the business side, especially when their requirements might be a bit more elaborate and a simpler solution will deliver same value. I've included a Medium article in the description below where scientists collected 5 petabytes of data in total from telescopes around the world. The data had to be processed in a central location and it was faster actually to send it through a FedEx than over the internet. So a rather simple idea compared to the sophisticated technical ones could do the job for you. Some of us have worked in traditional organizations where we as testers are asked to set the quality standards. The authors believe that this is backwards because it's not up to the tester, but up to the customer team to decide what level of quality they want to pay for and what sorts of risks are they willing to take. Testers and other team members should provide information to the customers and help them consider all aspects of quality. The ultimate decision, though, is up to the customer. Also, simple doesn't mean easy. For testers, it means testing just enough with lightweight tools and techniques we can find that will do the job. Tools can be as simple as a spreadsheet or a checklist. The idea is to avoid using a sledgehammer to swat a fly. Sometimes even smoke tests might be enough for business facing test automation. Exploratory testing could be used to learn about your application and ferret out hard to find bugs. Simplicity helps us keep our focus on the risks and return on investment and improving in the areas of greatest pain. An agile tester is always looking for ways to do a better job. It's a part of their mindset. Testers participate in team retrospectives every sprint and OKR cycles evaluating what's working well, what needs to be added, and or what needs to be tweaked. Testers bring up testing issues for the whole team to address. The testers should strive to solve the root cause of the problem as opposed to fixing the systems. A tester is always on the lookout for tools, skills, and practices that might help them add value to get a better return on investment. The short iterations of agile development make it easier to try something new for a few iterations and see if it's worth adopting for the long term. Testers must always look for ways to automate and help. They should even get help from their coworkers to automate mundane and repetitive tasks so that they can focus on tackling more complex issues. Agile team members look for return on investment, and if they don't see it quickly, then they move on. This isn't a negative characteristic when you're delivering production ready software every 2 weeks or even more often. When we work in a waterfall environment, we're used to saying, sorry, we can't make this change now. The requirements are frozen. We'll have to put up with the first patch release or something like that. This is frustrating for the customer because they realize that they didn't do a great job of defining all the requirements up front. In a 2 week agile iteration, though, we might have to say, okay, let's write a card for that and let's do it in the next iteration. Continuously changing requirements are a tester's nightmare. A traditional tester craves for stability. However, as agile testers, we welcome change. On a Wednesday, we might expect to start stories A, B, and C the next Friday. But by Friday, the customer could have reprioritized and now wants stories A, X, and Y. As long as we keep talking to the customer, we can handle changes like that because we are working in the same pace as the rest of the team. This may seem contradictory to what I said earlier about the sorting request, but not quite, because in this case, the scope remains the same. We move out some stories and then we put some additional stories. Automated testing is one key to the solution that helps us prevent regressions as we aggressively implement changes in our code. It also gives us more confidence. A self-organizing team imbues the agile testing philosophy. When programmers, system administrators, analysts, DB experts, and the customer team think continually about testing and test automation, testers enjoy a whole new perspective. Automating tests is hard, but it's much easier when the whole team is working together. Any testing issue is easier to address when you have multiple people with multiple skill sets attacking it. When an agile team faces a big problem or a broken build, it's not just the tester's problem, but it's everyone's problem. The team members discuss the issues right away and discuss how to and who will fix it. Projects succeed when good people are allowed to do their best work. Agile values and principles were created with the aim of enabling individuals and team success. Agile team members should feel safe and not have to worry about being blamed for mistakes or losing their jobs. Agile team members respect each other and recognize individual accomplishments. Everyone on the Agile team should have opportunities to grow and develop their skills. In the history of software development, testers haven't enjoyed a parity with other roles in the development team. Some people saw testers as failed programmers or second class citizens in the world of software development. Testers who don't bother to learn new skills and grow professionally contribute to this perception that testing is a low skilled work. Even the term tester has been avoided with job titles such as quality assurance engineer, quality analyst, and the QA department having been given preference. Agile teams that adhere to true Agile philosophy give all team members equal weight. Agile testers know they contribute unique values to their teams, and development teams have found they're more successful when their team includes people with specific testing skills and background. For example, someone with deep testing experience might ask important questions early enough that didn't occur to the team members without the testing experience. We're not alone in believing that everyone should find joy in their work. It's very important. Agile development rewards Agile testers' passion for their work. Our jobs as Agile testers are particularly satisfying because our viewpoint and skills let us add real value to the team in a holistic way. Let's explore how. The whole team takes responsibility for delivering high quality software that delights the customers and makes the business more profitable. This in turn brings new advantages to the business. Even with short iterations and frequent releases, it's easy to develop a gap between what the customer team expects and what the developer team delivers. Using tests to drive development helps prevent this, but you still need the right tests, not just tests. And Agile testers not only think about the system from the customer's viewpoint, but they also have a grasp of technical constraints and implementation roadblocks that the development team faces. Programmers focus on making things work. If they're coding to the right requirements, the customers will be happy. Unfortunately, customers aren't generally good at articulating their requirements. As the famous Henry Ford legend goes, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said they wanted faster horses. If a customer really wants to get from point A to point B as fast as possible, a car might be a better option, but a customer may not be as tech savvy and imaginative to express their feelings beyond their own language. Which brings me to one of my favorite quotes: "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." Ludwig Wittgenstein. That which you cannot express in your own language stays in your own mind, and others may find it hard to perceive. If you're ever interested in philosophy of language, I highly recommend reading Ludwig Wittgenstein. Coming back to the point, driving development with the wrong tests won't deliver the desired outcome. Agile testers ask questions of both customers and developers early and often and help them help shape the right answers into the right tests. During the story estimation and planning, Agile testers look at each feature from multiple perspectives: business, end user, production support, programmer perspective, and if there are any other perspective within your team. They consider the problem faced by the business and how the software might address them. They raise questions that flush out assumptions made by the customer and the developer team. At the start of each iteration, they help make sure the customer provides clear requirements and examples, and they help development team turn those into tests. Notice the theme here that the tester is playing as an interpreter and trying to flush out all the assumptions. At the start of each iteration, they help make sure that the customer provides clear requirements and examples, and they help the development team turn those into tests. The test-driven development and test results provide feedback on the team's progress. Behavior-driven development could also be used to capture test scenarios in a more English-like language that could help non-technical folks define tests in simple English sentences. Customers don't always know that they should mention their performance and reliability or security concerns, but testers think to ask about those. Testers also keep the testing approach and tools as simple and lightweight as possible. By the end of the iteration, testers verify that the minimum testing was completed. To summarize, we covered 10 principles for Agile testers and the values we think an Agile tester needs to possess in order to contribute effectively to an Agile team. What makes an Agile tester, the Agile testing mindset, the 10 principles and values that apply to the tester, and how they could add values using those principles. We have now covered the introductory phase of the Agile testing series. Now in the second phase, we will go through organizational challenges around Agile testing. And I think this is one of the most important pieces of Agile testing. I didn't mention this in the first chapter, but in this series, there are 21 chapters across 6 different phases or parts based on the similarity of topics. So we'll be entering the part 2. The next 3 chapters are, like I said, part of the phase 2 under the umbrella of organizational challenges. And in the next video, we'll discuss the cultural factors that can directly affect a tester's role on an agile team. With that said, thank you for your time. Don't forget to subscribe and geek out.